Cities Skylines II is a city builder simulator. What can we do in this game exactly? It allows us to shape a city's development from its infancy to maturity. Sounds overwhelming, doesn't it? The main goal of the game is to have fun building a thriving city of your choosing, overcoming the challenges faced during its different stages, and there will be challenges. The game is developed by Colossal Order Studios and published by Paradox Interactive. The developers have a long-standing tradition of working with the community to improve their games and constantly add more content. A great communication campaign that began a few months prior to the release of the game led to a high level of expectations. The new game details were shown, played, experimented with, and every new video released tickled everybody's imagination. On the release date, the game was downloaded and played by more than 69,000 players according to Steam charts. The initial impression of the majority was the game is having some serious performance issues. It felt like a rushed product on the market. Immediately, Marina Hallikainen, CEO of Colossal Order, took a hands-on approach and started communicating with the community. The Colossal Order Word of the Week series was introduced to keep everybody informed about what is going on, tips and tricks of what you can do in the meantime, and how the problems are being approached. Gotta say, awesome response! It's still bad they rushed the game out before testing it properly with multiple issues on different levels, from performance to balancing and engine-related bugs. The communication campaign definitely earned some points here. A few weeks after the release of the game, they did manage to fix a lot of issues raised by the community, and the game does look and feel much better and smoother. I strongly believe they could have released the game with an early access stamp on it. In my humble opinion, it would have been a much better approach to handle the obvious lack of manpower for quality assurance purposes. The internet community does like and does want to interact with games they are passionate about. Now that we got the intro out of the way, let's talk about this video. We will dive in a few new maps, we will take a look at the game and break it down into digestible and general parts. Before we get into the meat of things, please show your support for this kind of content with a like and a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more, and we'll see each other on the live stream. Let's get it going, shall we? What you will first notice when you load into a map is the connecting highway to the outside world. It is up to you to decide how to approach the problems ahead. You have to take into account the possible future of the settlement you will strive for and build accordingly. More population means more needs and more traffic on the roads. The key for a strong and successful city is its infrastructure. My advice is to build with possible upgrades in mind, leaving spaces where you need to, and properly zoning, so the impact of changes or upgrades later on will be minimal. The zoning system is pretty straightforward and easy to pick up. You can choose between an array of low-density residential to high-density options. Same goes for the commercials and offices. The industry is a bit special and you have to take it into account. While there is a possibility to create a city based on imports and tailored to generate money from something else, it's usually good to have at least a decently sized industrial district connected to the main highway with enough space to be connected to the railroad. One note on the commercial district zoning. In the beginning, you won't be able to see where the hotspots of possible customers are, and you will need to place a few around the initial settlement anyway. Just use your best judgment. Bear in mind, these do generate noise, and placing them between residential zones will lower the happiness of the surrounding area. As the game progresses, you will start noticing when using the commercial zoning tool, areas in your city will have a much higher rating for commercial zones. It's best if you do concentrate your efforts in the dark green areas, where the highest density of customers are. And the challenge begins. How do you create infrastructure that can help your chirpers get from point A to point B and keep the traffic flowing at the same time? The most important intersections of the game are the ones connecting your city to the outside highways and your industrial area. You will need to design it so it's able to allow upgrades and maybe even replacements later on. Set aside space for it from the beginning, plan your city with these connections in mind, and experiment to see what works best for you, visibly and technically. Keep in mind that your early zoning might be replaced with higher density later on, meaning your infrastructure will need to be able to handle the extra weight. It helps to add more outside connections, trying to space out your districts so the traffic that's generated can be easily absorbed by the intersections. Like in real life, you can build highways passing through the city or city rings to allow the cars to move faster and lessen the amount spent at the stop signs. Every city you build will require services for its population and increase safety for everything in general. You will start by building health, fire safety and police force. Later on, your population will require GSM internet coverage and a working mail system for communication. Each of the services helps you keep your chirpers healthy, happy and productive. During the game, their increased needs will require you to adapt accordingly by scaling up or down the services for an area. There are limitations for each building which you will need to take into account. The education system is also very important. Each business in your area will require smarter and smarter chirpers to work for them as they progress through the upgrade tiers. You do want them to upgrade so they can become more efficient and generate more income, which in turn helps you grow your budget. Giving your population multiple choices for transport and connecting your city and business areas with lines of transportation will help you lower the amount of traffic on your roads and pedestrian walkways. Your chirpers do need to go about their business every day. Make sure they can get there. You start the city with people moving into the homes you have built, working at the jobs you provided them. That also means it will take time for your population age groups to diversify, which will require you to adapt the services accordingly. Keep an eye out on the population filter and scale up as needed. Population educational spread is also an important metric which you will need to take into account. Not having from the beginning a diverse age group spread gives you an opportunity. Build the educational system to provide your population with the chance to acquire the skills and knowledge they require to be better at making you money. After all, they need to be paying taxes, don't they? As your industry evolves, you will also get options to build special universities catering to the needs of your industry or medical department. Each business in your city requires different kinds of educated chirpers. Take a look from time to time what kind of education is required for the empty jobs, and you can figure out what types of houses you need to build, or if you need to wait for your chirpers to finish their educational cycle. You will notice an increased desire in higher education as time progresses. Commercials, industrial buildings, offices or landmarks will give you the opportunity to create jobs for your chirpers. They will also put different amount of pressure on your infrastructure and environment. The commercials and industrial buildings will probably generate the most traffic from their supply routes, while on the opposite side we have the offices with the least amount of pressure on the roads. It's good to maintain a balance and try to pay attention to the effects of your districts on the roads and services and adapt your future cities accordingly next time. Since most players have their own way of painting their beloved city and exact rules are hard to be put into writing, I would say the most important thing is to keep in mind the flow of traffic, which in turn fuels your economy. It is the city's blood and the roads are its arteries. Use the tools at hand, mold your roads so they are functional for the task at hand. We'll delve more into this later. A very important metric in the game is the unemployment rate. You might ask me, but why? Just give them welfare. Well, yeah and no. In order to have a healthy, proper budgetary cycle, you will need to provide your chirpers with enough diversity in places to work and properly educate them to have a chance to grow and pay taxes. The welfare system is important, getting people out of a pinch and back into the job market, but it shouldn't be the priority. It's a good measure to keep your unemployment rate under 10%, targeting at least a 4-5% when you stabilize your growth. It will happen quite often to underestimate the amount of jobs you need to create. As your population grows, the needs to buy will grow also. Using the filter for commercial zoning, you can figure out where the best zone is to have profitable businesses and rake in the cash. For good results, you should have a working transport system and pedestrian paths to allow the chirpers to get back and from the shopping areas. Build the commercials in the dark green areas and be careful to scale them properly. You cannot manually control every business establishing in the zone you laid down. Sometimes trying out other businesses by manually destroying the building and letting it rebuild can do the trick. One of the ways to control the direction of the economy is to use the tax system as a financial incentive. Lower your taxes for the types of businesses you want to thrive in your city and put a more heavy toll on the ones requiring more services and pollute the environment. Or you can do 180 degrees to the dark side and create chaos. You can get relatively early access to a myriad of roads and tools you can use to design your road network. From alleyways to full-blown massive streets, you will be in charge of the freedom of movement in your city. A clear upgrade to what we've seen in Cities Skylines 1 is how the roads combine with each other to create intersections and roundabouts. Use the tools at hand to shape how your chirpers drive. One of the main things to worry about are the connections between your city and the outside. Chirpers moving in or out will tend to overload your network. You will need to scale accordingly and manage the outside flow alongside your industrial and commercial centers. Will you build them together or apart? Each design has its own challenges. I would like to suggest a few things though. Using big entry roundabouts and single direction roads will allow for a much better flow with flexibility to upgrade in the future dedicated pathways for the main traffic needs. You will need to create these bigger roundabouts manually by switching to curved roads, placing the initial start of the circle, going on the first path in a straight direction at an amount you will need to remember. I usually like numbers greater than 72, makes for easier connections. And then go 90 degrees in the direction you want to create your circle for the same number you remembered earlier. Do this for the next 3 segments and you got an easy roundabout. Create with heavy traffic flow in mind, separate the districts in manageable areas, and use the inner space for bigger roads to connect to everywhere else. If you want to keep working on your city to make it benefit from a large population, each step of early design will go a long way towards you having an easier time later down the road. Each building generated through zoning will have its needs and wants. Access to services like police, fire department, healthcare, and deathcare will increase the population happiness. So will parks and parking lots. So be sure to build a few of them around the neighborhood. If you rezone an area and turn it into a higher density zone, always check to see if your services are keeping up with demand. More population, more needs. You can always go back on an area and repurpose it as your city grows, tearing down the low-density housing to build bigger, higher-density homes, for example. Prepare for the heavier load in traffic accordingly, and always double-check your unemployment and service coverage numbers so you know when you need to scale your businesses up or what type of service you will need more of. In the beginning, you lay the first steps towards education using your schools and high schools. As time progresses and more chirpers move in and your businesses are flourishing, they will need higher educational systems so they can perform the jobs required by the top tier businesses. Adding universities and specialty universities like technical or medical will make your chirpers sing, allowing the big money to keep on flowing towards your taxes. Make sure you scale them accordingly, and let's create the best environment for higher knowledge to flourish. There aren't yet many options added to the game that allow you to put a touch of beauty on your intersections, parks, or neighborhoods, although they are enough to paint a better city. You can use the pedestrian roads, trees, bushes, and other pathways to put your mark on the city and get those awesome pictures for your friends to see and marvel. I usually like to do this after 20-25k population when I took care of the base of the city and I need to wait for my population to grow. The game still has quite a few issues to work out, from weird traffic behavior to the budget system. There are still some numbers that just don't make sense. Cities Skylines II has a lot of potential though to outrank its predecessor and set the standard for city simulators for years to come. I really hope we will see a lot of optimization done and have a working workshop soon so the community can jump in and add tens of thousands of designs from all over the world, allowing us to create some incredible cities. Did you play it yet? I would love to take a look at your cities and hear your opinion on the game. Join me on Discord using the invite link in the description and leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and click the little bell for more like this.